Welcome to Channel A Make, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on side so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now today's video, we are here to discuss whether or not you can actually work legitimately as a student or a student visa holder in Australia, should I say. Now obviously a lot of people will say, oh, this is a boring topic. Obviously you can work as a student in Australia, and that's why the international education sector of Australia has become so competitive, as a lot of international students around the world seeking to study in Australia because they can actually work during their study. This is not a particularly a condition for a lot of other countries. For example, if you go to UK, if you enroll as a student, not below the course of master or postgrad, you possibly cannot actually conduct any employment. Same as apply in USA as well. But anyway, there's so many other conditions in regards to other countries that I'm not specialized in. It's best that you consult with someone who specializes in those nations' immigration law. But today we're talking about the Australian immigration law, so let's chat about this. Now there are two type of topic that I'm going to discuss in this video. First of all is obviously if you hold a visa under student subclass 500 or perhaps the dependent 500 visas, can you actually work? How can you actually legitimize the work hours? Because there's also confusion between, well, what if I'm on holiday? What if I am still pending on bridging visa? Can I work? If I graduated and I'm onto 485 visa, can I work full-time? Blah blah blah. And obviously there's more condition going in during this pandemic because there's so much skill required around the nation. So, and also the second part of this video, we're going to discuss whether or not is it legitimized to actually use student visa in order for you to continue to stay and work? Is that legit? Is that legal? Is that lawful? We're gonna discuss this in the second part of this video. I'm sorry. Now let's go into the actual immigration web page and have a look of what it actually says. Okay, so first of all, you may be familiar with this. All you need to do is you punch in Google, punch in Home Affairs and just space 500. You should be able to land yourself in this subclass 500 student visa page quite easily. So the overview, I'm not gonna go through it. It's pretty simple. What we're gonna focus on today is, let's click on the second toggle. It says about this visa. As you can see, my cursor is going on it, and it comes down to what you can do in the first section. A lot of people don't really go into the detail of this. Now obviously that's on the top right there. You can see with this visa you can, a lot of people don't really pay too much attention on this one, although it's quite simple with 3 sentences, but it does have a lot of detail in there, and I'm gonna also go into the actual policy and regulations to explain further. So obviously with this visa, you study, because that's a student visa, and you can travel in and out because, you know, holiday, you can travel in, well, within Australia, you can travel within Australia, you can also travel in and out of Australia, and with a temporary measure, at this point in time, you can work with unlimited hours. Now that's because of the pandemic, and that's a lack of skill, and that is the cause by the nation of Australia. Prime Minister on the 20th of March 2022 basically announces and call every migrant to actually leave Australia and make it a mess that no one, there's a really lack of skill and workers in Australia. Now that also paints you a picture that Australia does really need skilled migrants. It's a nation that cannot really work without skilled migrants. Even now you can see the policies right here says we need students to work for us. Anyway, you can judge on that one. So not gonna comment too much on that one because that's unlimited. But let's go into a general circumstances that what if we are out of pandemic, because we are soon moving into a post-pandemic era, which we will get back into our normal lives. Obviously, if you follow my channel long enough, you may notice that the government has stick to their 160,000 annual intake migrant quota for 2022 and 23, but by increasing an additional 30,000 skilled migration quota, moving from all the other categories. And the year after, which is going to be 2023-24, it's likely to hit near 200k of the migration intake. So it's actually very vital, and it's actually within my prediction where the Australia after the pandemic, it looks like they're gonna open up a bigger door for migrants. So watch out for that space there. Now let's go into the actual law. If you are a student visa holder, you will receive a grant letter, which on the first page will actually noting you have some condition and rights that you can access with. And if you're a student, you are likely to see this 8105 or 8104 as a student dependent. So what does that mean? That means you have some sort of restriction on it. Usually that's what it meant. Now, in the broad sense, it says that within a fortnight, which is 2 weeks, you can only work 40 hours in total. You cannot work more than 40 hours. That's pretty easy to depict and understand. Now, the question is this. If you are not in a course session, for example, going into vacation, going into holiday, during holiday time, you finish your 13 weeks of university courses, and you have 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, or perhaps going into end of year and Christmas holiday, you got 2 or 3 months of holiday, and you decide not to return back to your country but stay in Australia as an international student. What is your work right? Do you have sort of limitation on it still? So let's go into and explain in detail. So what it says here, obviously you know about the 40 hours fortnight, but the key here I'm gonna draw you attention to is this one. Subject to 1A does not apply. Holder if time application of visa holder held a substantive visa and bridging visa, the holder was permitted to work during the period of previous visa was in effect. So that basically meant if you have other visas or you're applying to become a 485 visa holders during that bridging visa, you will still have you won't have that limitation on it, shall I say. Now in relation to that, it also in this one, holder must not engage working Australia more than 40 hours fortnight during any fortnight when holder course, study or training is in session. So this is the key. Now a lot of people only read right on top of me, right? Okay, a lot of people only read 40 hours fortnight, but they left out the very important part. It says during any fortnight when holder's course, study or training is in session. So the key here is in session, the last 3 words. Why is it important? Obviously, during your course, you're supposedly putting full-time effort studying, so you cannot work full-time. But if it's out of the session, not during any sessions, meaning that you're on holiday, then of course your restrictions not there anymore. There's no more 40-hour per fortnight restrictions. So a lot of people don't get this right. So obviously, if you have finished your course or if you're on holiday, you can actually work unlimited, just like how they have noting you on this web page here. Obviously, because we are still considered to be in a pandemic situation, but moving into post-pandemic, you can actually work unlimited. But if we moving back into the normal life, which we are transitioning into, this will be the law that you should be taking care of. Now, let's talk about the second part in this video is about, should I utilize student visa to extend my further stay in Australia in order to work? Now, it's a question basically under the table. If you go and ask immigration officer, obviously every one of them will say, of course, no, you should not abuse the use of student visa in order to allow you to work. However, there's so many agencies out there possibly promoting this kind of concept, utilizing student visa to continue to stay in Australia in order for you to conduct sort of work in Australia. Now, obviously, we don't promote this, but is it legit? Obviously, if the visa has been granted, you will have that work right there. But if the intention is like this and being notified, now, what the department has been done over the past years, they're embedding their artificial intelligence AI robots within their systems, so they can easily depict an algorithm being used, easily to depict whether or not you're actually utilizing a visa in order for further stay and work. And hence, while you're applying for that student visa with that specific institution's course, you're likely to get your visa rejected or refused. So I've been receiving a lot of email, comment, questions in regards to, oh, I've got this, why did they reject me? Well, you need to think about this. Is your application likely to be one of that kind of situation where either the AI robot or the case officer can actually see and feel that you're actually using student visa as a way to continue to stay in Australia and work? Now, if that's the case, obviously they will reject you. Now, how does the AI or the case officer easily depict your situation? Basically, look at whether or not your English proficiency, your background, that goes back to all the GTE requirements, and what sort of course or institution you have actually choose. Have you chosen the course based on because it's very cheap and it's paying for the paying structure is a lot of installments, so I don't need to pay a huge lump sum just like a traditional school or university, so I can actually work during the time and make my money and put in installment? Is this the kind of courses that you actually enroll in? Well, obviously it's very likely to see a visa rejection. And over these past 2 years, there's so many of these private colleges has actually closed down due to such checkings or mechanisms done by the immigration. Anyway, should you have more question, query, more than welcome to leave a comment right down below, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.